Last weekend was absolutely brutal. We had heat index of 109 degrees, but the big question is, did the portable air conditioner that I installed on this Promaster last week actually keep us cool, or was it just a big waste of time? Hey guys, hope all is well. In my last video I posted, I showed you guys how I installed this portable air conditioner into this Promaster van, and last weekend, over the 4th of July, we really put this thing through the test. Honestly guys, it was probably as hot as you almost ever see it here in Wisconsin. Like I said in the intro guys, we had a heat index on July 3rd of 109 degrees. That was the day we got to the campground. And the following day on the 4th of July, we had a heat index of 104. We were cranking Fahrenheit temperatures around 95 degrees. So I am here today to give you guys a review. The good, the bad, the ugly, what went well and what did not. And overall, do I think it was a good idea or was it not worth it? What we have, a Promaster, not sure if I'm saying that right, 5,000 BTUs, and it is a portable air conditioner. I picked this up here in Wisconsin at Menards. I got it for $200. And I will give you guys a quick recap of how we installed this thing. Out of the back of these units, these portable ACs, you got an exhaust tube. So we push that out the window over there. I will show you that in a second. And then it also has a hose where the water drips out of, and it collects into this small bucket. I added this little part here because these cheaper air conditioners are prone to fail in this area, and this is already not the greatest, but it's working for now. On the window exhaust over there, I cut out a part that actually came with this, and I was able to shape it and form it into that window. By the way guys, I do need a bigger bucket, but this worked for the weekend. So as you can see, the exhaust comes out here. This piece came with the air conditioner, but I cut it to fit this window. And I also made a rain flap. To get more detail on that, go to the last video I posted and I show you how I did that. For this unit, I just power it into the outlet here, which is tied into the main outlet at the campground that we stay at. So we are not running this off of battery power or anything like that. This is going directly into an outlet at the campsite. I think they definitely recommend running these into a single outlet. We might push the rules on that a little bit sometimes, but I'm not recommending that to you guys now. But definitely be careful with how you're running these things. We do have some Jackery power units that runs our refrigerator when we're traveling, and we have another small Jackery that runs lights and stuff like that. Well, lately we've been mostly staying at electrical site campgrounds, so we haven't been using these Jackeries too much. But I think this van is good for like 5-6 days off grid, so that's a good thing. But we definitely like staying at legit campgrounds and RV parks if we're gonna have extreme temperatures, just so we can have the electricity to run our AC or our heaters. For this test, we happen to be somewhere in western Wisconsin, maybe just north of La Crosse, in a town called Trempealeau. I don't know if I'm saying it right, but something like that. And I guess we couldn't have asked for hotter weather to do an air conditioner test. And we stayed up there in a state park. I believe it was called Perot State Park. Pretty decent place. So the question is, guys, did this air conditioner cool down the van effectively? So like I said, we pulled in on July 3rd. We parked this in the camping spot, and at the time, maybe 3 in the afternoon, it was bright sun, super hot. I believe around 4 is when I saw that the heat index was 109 degrees. And we don't see that very often here in Wisconsin. Maybe 104, 105 is somewhat common, but 109, that was kind of off the charts. And here's the thing, guys. I am not a heat lover. My wife can deal with it better than I can, but I parked this van, I hooked up the air conditioner, closed the door, and I got in here as quick as I could just to hide from the heat. Not sure if this would effectively cool down or not. Like I said, I think the temperature was around 95 degrees Fahrenheit as well. I got a thermometer in the van, so I was monitoring the situation. This thermometer is here in the van, back a little ways and to the left from the AC. In the afternoon, 4 or 5 o'clock, the temperature on this thermometer was hovering around 88 degrees. So not the coolest temperature in the world. As you can see, this is centered perfectly in the van. We got a couple curtains to separate the cab, and that does help keeping some of the heat up front. So this thing does blow directly at our bed here. So you see the center of the bed here and this is where the main air from the air condition will travel to. So even though the thermometer said 88 degrees, when I was sitting here, the AC air was blowing directly at me. So in turn, I was still fairly comfortable sitting right here. Or especially if I stood right here, AC blowing right at me, felt very nice. And let me get this out of the way, guys. And this is for sure 100% the truth. If we did not have this AC, there's no way I could have gone camping over this weekend. Actually, when I created this van and built this van, you can see we don't have insulation up here. I built this van to travel generally in temperatures from 30 degrees to 90 degrees and anywhere in between. And so far, that's worked out great for this van. But we missed a camping trip or two because of very hot weather, so we thought we'd get an AC so we can add some days to the camping season. Now, later in the day, 5:36, the sun was getting farther down in the sky. Our sight shaded up a little bit, and it started cooling off pretty good here in the van. At that point, we were getting in the 78-degree range. So 78 degrees with this air blowing right on us. It was nice and cool in here at that point, and we just kept this thing running as cold as it could go, and we kept running it constantly. Now, it was so muggy outside, you could cut it with a knife. It was very uncomfortable. So this thing was pulling a lot of water into the bucket. I'll get back to that in a second. But you know, 9 o'clock at night, we were in here, we were watching a little TV, and it was beautiful inside here. But if you walked outside, maybe to walk up to the bathroom or something like that, it was just thick, heavy air and very warm. So obviously, this thing was more effective when the sun went down and it got a bit cooler outside in the direct sun. Obviously had a harder time keeping the temperature down, but it was still effective in keeping us cool with that cold air blowing on us. Now let's talk about that humidity again. I think I already mentioned you definitely need a bigger bucket because we were pulling a lot of water out of the air as it was so humid. So you just want to make sure you're keeping an eye on your drainage. You don't want to flood out the front of your van. As for noise, well, this thing sounds like an air conditioner, so it's not quiet by any means. But for me, I don't mind the white noise. I sleep well with the white noise. Sorry guys, I jumped ahead a little bit. I forgot to tell you this. You know, I probably crashed around 10:30. I emptied the bucket before bed. And when I woke up at 5:30, it was freaking cold in here. Also by 5:30, that bucket was pretty full. So glad I got up at that point. But the thermometer was showing 60 some degrees, 65, 68, can't quite remember. But when I got up, I ended up turning the AC off so it would actually warm back up a bit. So definitely on one of the hottest nights you'll ever have in Wisconsin, one of the most humid nights you'll ever have in Wisconsin, this thing was more than plenty. And that's probably one of the most important things. You know, you can get a good night's sleep. So I would say that's very important when it comes to having an AC. Sure, maybe midday, you might struggle a little bit. But if you want to get a good night's sleep, that is definitely a smart way to go. I think for me, this air conditioner has mostly pros and not a ton of cons really. Again, you can go look at the installation video. You'll see how easy it was. It's a pretty simple process. Admittedly, I got lucky. I have this center perch here, so I was able just to set the AC on there and it fit in perfectly. You might have to come up with something for your own, and that part might get a little bit difficult, depending on your van layout and whatnot. The cons, and this is just a con for these air conditioners in general, these will kind of let heat out. So if you can get an insulation sleeve for your tube, that sounds like a good option. But believe it or not, even these thin curtains, they help keeping some of the heat up front here. If you watch the installation video, you'll see I have the exhaust tube on the passenger side. Well, I changed that. Let me tell you why. Now initially, the tube was here on the passenger side, and it's still there. It still works best on this side. But what happened, we had the exhaust here. And my wife would kind of say when she opened the door, she would feel the hot air from the exhaust get into the van. So she thought it would be a better idea to move the exhaust to the other side. I kind of fought her on that for a second, but eventually I made the move, and I'm glad I did. So this fits a little bit differently. I just had to reinvent the rain flap a bit. Otherwise it was a quick change, but now we don't have to worry about this exhaust getting into the van. Another plus with the exhaust on this side, it is much quieter because this is the door side and this is the side facing the camp. And that was a bit noisy actually coming out of that window. But with that exhaust now on the other side, we barely even hear it. And I can't think of really too many cons. I mean, carrying it and storing it, that's kind of a pain in the butt. It is a little bit heavy, takes up a lot of room in a shorter van here. We got the 136 Promaster, but for us, not a big deal, especially camping here locally in Wisconsin. We're maybe traveling 2-3 hours away, and we've been bringing a car, especially in hotter temperatures. So we'll often just take the 2 vehicles. I can throw the AC in the car. We can take this van, we park it, and we leave it, and we do our bumming in the small car. So on our longer cross-country trips, I probably wouldn't want to bring the AC. And usually when we're crossing the country like that, I am avoiding the extreme temperatures anyway. So the AC will come in handy probably a few days out of the year here in Wisconsin. And as you can see, the garage area is already pretty full, guys. We were kind of fortunate. We didn't run into any surprises with this unit or anything like that. Everything worked as I thought it would. Would I recommend this unit to you guys? Of course, I thought it worked great, but it works great for our particular situation. If yours is similar to ours, then yes, by all means, this is a good addition to your van life experience. However, if you're running off of batteries and off grid all the time, probably not a good solution. If you're running a small van like this and you are staying in more extreme conditions, I don't know, it might be a pain in the butt hauling this thing around, and it will take up a lot of room, so that might not be ideal for that situation. But for us here, pretty local, camping locally, bringing an extra car to the camping trip and staying at electric sites, it's a home run. And honestly, for 200 bucks, I mean, you can't complain about that. And yes, I paid for the hose extra. And if you gotta buy a bucket or whatever, that'll add a few extra bucks to the cost. And if you choose to buy an insulation sleeve for your exhaust, that's gonna cost a little bit extra. Honestly, I've never seen them. I just found out that was an option. There you have it. What else can I say, guys? So if you yourself are thinking about adding a portable AC to your van and you have any questions, drop them in the comments. I can try helping you from what I've learned so far, which probably isn't a ton, but hey. Also, if you guys like this kind of content, van life stuff, camping, travel. Also on this channel, you'll probably find some health related content and music and art and stuff like that. But for the time being, I do got some van stuff I want to post, so stay tuned for that stuff, guys. All right, guys, that's gonna about do it for today's video. Stay cool out there, and we will see you all next time. Take care.